There we go. And now I'm live on YouTube as well. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kat Lindquist with Badass Red Dress Society. And today is month 6 of our 12-month guided discussion group. Today we are talking about transforming your life. We have gone through a journey of looking at awareness, looking at intention. We've talked about who we are authentically. We've talked about the laws of the universe. We went through what is our internal GPS system. And today we are talking about how to transform your life. And are you ready to transform your life? One of the things that we talk about in BARDS is that this is a journey, and that along the way you are continuously learning and growing and expanding. And along the way, you're going to find that you are ready for certain things and you're not ready for certain things. And that is all beautiful and good. And it's all part of the actual journey that you are experiencing. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about what parts are you ready to step into to transform? What parts maybe you're not quite ready for, you want to do a little more internal work on. And so we don't go into specifics about, whether it's work or it's a relationship, but it's really all about the internal work that we're doing and understanding about where we are in our journey and what we're ready for next. So I want to welcome my Badass Red Dress ladies for being here. Thank you so much. And for you joining us on either Facebook or YouTube. I will put in there for information as we go along. And so welcome to creating your badass red dress life. So, as we're going along, we will find that in life, we might be at a place where things are not where we want them to be. And we might also be at a place where we think life is pretty good. But the question is life really great? Are you living the great life that you truly desire? And so many times we get into a place of complacency. We get into a place of we want to be static because change can feel uncomfortable. But we are constantly growing and changing, whether we know it or not. There's always stimulus coming into our experience. There's always new people that we're meeting. There's new information that we're hearing. And as we take all of that in, we are deciding whether we're going to incorporate it or reject it. Mm-hmm. And that is all part of your process. And so sometimes we get to a place in life where things are good. You have a steady job, you're feeling fine financially, your relationship is going okay, and you're comfortable. But the question is really, are you fulfilling your purpose? Are you fulfilling your personal purpose for being here on this earth? And so many times we don't even ask ourselves that question. Why am I here? And what is my purpose? And what is my gift to the world that I'm giving or not giving? And so part of that questioning, we're going to go through a series of 8 questions today to kind of work through where are you, what is it you want out of life, and what steps are you ready to take? So we're just going to jump right in, and we're going to start with question 1. And it starts, and these are kind of statements of, I fully agree with the statement, I somewhat agree with the statement, I somewhat disagree with the statement, or I fully disagree with the statement. So there's flexibility. And unless it's an absolute no or an absolute yes, you get to decide kind of where in between you are. So the first statement says, I am whole and complete the way I am right now.
So this is how we feel in this very
How you feel
moment.
at this very moment.
This present moment.
This present moment. Do you believe and feel that you are whole and complete the way you are right now? And again, if it's somewhere in between, if it's sort of, yeah, and sometimes it's kind of that right in between where it's like I'm feeling very neutral about this. I'm feeling very, I really don't know how I feel about this. You know, it can be that truly in between, and actually that's something that I'll add into that is.
Well, mine is really both. It's like it depends on the situation in my life.
Okay.
So if I have this challenge, you know, which is part of life, is learning and growing. So if I have something that challenges me that I'm uncomfortable with, I disagree. But then when things seem smooth and good and I'm in that flow of like really, you know, doing well, and I'm in that state of confidence and I'm confident about what I'm doing, then I would agree.
Okay.
So I go back and forth.
I appreciate hearing that feedback, because I think a lot of women feel that way. That sometimes these things are conditional and situational. And that's actually something that we'll continue to talk about as we move through our progression in our 12 months, is learning how to let go of those conditions, learning how to let go of what's happening around you, whether you're, like you said, sometimes if I'm being challenged with something, then I tend to feel this way. And if I'm doing okay, then I tend to feel this way. And it's learning how to let go of those conditions, so that your feelings and your inner being and your authentic self is steady, no matter what's going on around, of how you feel.
Right.
And so that's one of the progressions that we'll talk about.
I felt somewhat agree, because I'm like 90% complete in my transformation.
Beautiful.
But there's a little bit left.
Okay.
And I'm working on it.
Excellent. And you'll continue to work on it, you know, because even with the physical transformation, you are now becoming who you are.
Right.
And that is lifelong. So until you decide to transition out of this body and out of this particular experience, you will continue to grow and learn. And that's such a beautiful thing. And would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. I've been reading this book about self-love, and it's been taking me a while to read thoroughly through a book, but what I've read so far is so poignant that we don't need to change who people think we should be or what we want to be one day, as we are right here, right now. That is just the way it's supposed to be. So I fully agree, because I need to realize I'm whole and complete just the way I am. Like I'm great just the way I am, because I'm meant to be here for a reason. And I believe that I'm discovering something new every day, but I fully agree that I am capable of whatever I put my mind and heart to.
Beautiful. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So this, again, it kind of weighs your willingness to accept yourself for who you really are. And again, not for who you think you should be for someone else, or who others think you should be for them. Beautiful. So the second statement says, I accept the universe is energetic. And you either fully agree, somewhat agree, I'm neutral on this, I somewhat disagree, or I fully disagree.
We can't circle them all. No.
You can't circle them all, no. Beautiful. So regardless of your thoughts, feelings, or practices around religion, do you accept that the universe has forces beyond that which you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch?
That was an easy one for me.
Okay. Very nice. So do people want to share out kind of what they believe or how they feel, or?
I fully agree with that too, because I think we can see that there's humans don't have that much power in the universe. Okay.
That's right. That's coming from the scientist.
We think we do, but we really don't.
There you go.
It's way bigger.
Does someone have a different feeling at this point?
Well, I have the whole like religious being, you know, raised Catholic, and I would, do the rosary, and then there was a prayer that you pray to Saint Teresa, and then you pray it for so many days, and then you get this rose from the heavens as a sign that your prayer will come true.
Mhm.
And so like I had that kind of faith as a child, and then moving into, like the 12-step kind of philosophy, the spirituality, and really what it did is it made me think that the universe was energetic, but it was limited. So it was, like if you do your 4-step inventory, then you'll always get a good parking spot. You'll always get, even Christmas Eve at the mall. So believing that happened. Now I really thought at that time that was why that happened. But now I realize from Badass Red Dress that if you believe it, it will happen. And it's not that if you believe it, it'll happen. It's just happening. And you just have to have your eyes open for it.
Right, right.
So,
Okay.
So Catholics, that's a religion?
and that's
Sorry.
where I get the rose name.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anyone else?
My transformation name.
I somewhat agree, just because like I'm tentative in my own journey with it and everything,
Okay.
and I'm still finding my footing.
Sure.
But I mean, I know it's fully agree for me, but at the same time, it's somewhat agree is like I'm on the, what do you call it, the border of both of those.
Okay.
So like it just depends on the situation at hand. So that kind of thing.
Excellent. All right. It says, I accept transformation takes time. So many times in our today's world, we want things instantaneously. And the improvement of your life is not a quick fix. It's not a single course. It's not a one and done seminar. Transformation is something that happens every day. It's something you go through consistently as you're going through your journey of life. And really it comes down to the choice is that change happens incrementally. And so as you go through your process of transformation, you may not see right away something change or something different for a while. And then all of a sudden, you'll wake up one day and realize, wow, this has happened, or this is different now, or I'm feeling different now, or look at where I started and now look at where I am. And even in my own process, I've gone through things, especially in the development of BARDS. I've gone through some ups and downs. I've gone through some waves where I was very involved in getting it started, and then things happened and I drifted away, and then I've come back. And I went through a period a couple months ago where I was feeling frustrated, and I was feeling that I just wasn't accomplishing or it wasn't moving forward as fast as I really wanted it to. And I had to have someone else step in and remind me, but look at where you've come from. And I had to really take that step back and say, oh, yeah, look at where I've come from. I really started with nothing. I didn't know how to set up a website. I didn't know anything about technology. I didn't know how to set up YouTube channels or Facebook pages or any of this. And now I have a meetup group with over 50 women. I have wonderful women that come to experience this live. We have you on our virtual audience, and we are continuing to grow. And BARDS will continue to grow, and the message will continue to expand and move into all parts of the country, all parts of the world, that women are empowered and that you have the opportunity to truly be, look at where I've come from. And it took time. It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years since the concept of BARDS came to my partner, Mark, and I. And so we've really come a long way. But sometimes we forget in that moment. And so how are you feeling about that? That you understand that transformation takes time?
Well, I mean, you think about it, we had our whole life to get to where we are. You're not going to change yourself without also taking time. It took forever to get here, and now it's going to take a little time to get somewhere else. And it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about, you said you had this idea, it's what you started with, and see how dangerous ideas can be. No,
They can be.
they can be good. I just
They
meant
can
that, you know, all of a sudden you had a lot to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And how exciting is that? then?
Yeah, I mean, it's all
Yeah.
good stuff.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
It reminds me of when it talks about transformation taking time. It reminds me of a butterfly. It wasn't always a butterfly.
That's
It
right.
was a caterpillar, and it's just doing its own thing, you know. And but it has a purpose set in mind to eat and eat and eat, like the hungry caterpillar, you know. And eventually, it takes time for the chrysalis to grow into transforming the butterfly, and that's how we are. We're all butterflies because we're all transforming into something even grander and bolder and bigger than we ever thought we could be, you know. And I'm so grateful for this not program, this group, because I just have learned so much about it and how I can transform right along with everyone else. You know, it's not just a me thing, it's a we thing.
That's a beautiful idea.
It is.
That's
Thanks.
Really
awesome.
nice.
Thank you. I love how you phrase that. Thank you.
Thanks.
It is a we thing. And that truly was the concept of BARDS, is that it's a community.
Right.
It's a community of women that are bold and are wanting to be authentic and understand that while each of us has our own personal journey, we don't have to walk that journey alone, because there's so many of us that are walking that same journey,
Right.
just in our individual way.
And I have a thought that, you know, I think of infants and toddlers, and I keep going back there now that I'm working with them again.
Mhm.
But the fact that you can get a child, a preschool child, to acquire a taste for a new food if they just put it on their tongue every day for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So just that thought, like about getting, you know, children to eat healthier food or having them be part of like a garden project. But it's interesting because just that fact that all you have to do is taste something for 2 weeks and then it becomes a habit with a child means that, yeah, it takes longer for adults, but change is really possible for us.
It is.
But it takes, you know, it's like, you know, if you're learning a new skill, you get on the bike every day and practice.
Yeah.
And then you get it down, but you've got to at least do a little bit every day. So what I think is just put it on your tongue and spit it out. So that's why, like with new sex experiences, like sexual experiences, like even like a kink experience or something, it's like, okay, do it with people I trust and go with a community like BARDS,
Yeah.
but also try something at least, people say at least 3 times, but you know, it might take 10.
You're absolutely right.
You know,
Yeah.
it takes, you know, and it's about transforming in a way that is in the best interest of myself. And if I feel that in my gut, then just keep practicing it and it'll come.
Right, right. And that is such an important aspect of this, is that every day, if we're doing a little bit, that change happens incrementally. And so, but it will only happen if we make that intention and we do the work.
It's work.
It is work.
It takes
because
courage.
You think about how much work, like you said, how much work it took to get to where we are now. All the things that we did to become who we are now, and now we're being intentional about who we are going to become and who we are becoming. It's the difference between having that default life of just going along with what comes along, rather than being intentional of saying, this is who I want to be. This is the path I want to walk, and making that choice every day. And so it's that shift of intention that really makes the difference of how we move forward. And if we want to make that transformation and that change, it has to be intentional. Otherwise, we will continue to revert back to our old patterns and our old ways. And part of that, we talked a little bit about, I think in our 3rd month, when we talked about the laws of the universe, that there's momentum. And momentum has been building throughout our whole life up to this point as to who we've become. And now we want to shift that, and we have to shift that momentum But think about a freight train going 100 miles an hour. That's where you are right now in your life.
Mhm.
You can't just stop that train on a dime and go, oh, I want to go left.
Mhm.
You know, you have to slow the train down. When we try to go too quickly,
Mhm.
we tend to crash and we revert back. And that's, again, not a bad thing either, because you learn something through that experience.
Right.
And I've done that multiple times throughout the last 2 years with BARDS. Is I've kind of gone, and then something happened, and I kind of crashed out, and then I reverted back to other things, and now I've rebuilt the momentum, just allowing it to be at its own pace, allowing myself to be at the pace of just every day I wake up, I do something for BARDS, whether it's an email, whether it's a thought process, whether it's working on the book study that's coming up that I'll talk about later. Anything that I'm doing, I try to do something every day, a little something every day, even if it's just a thought process that is for BARDS, because that's the change that I want to make. It's that incremental step that I make on a daily basis. And so however you choose and whatever your path is, just know that it's that incremental step.
I wanted to make a comment about the butterfly story.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful.
Because I just realized that I'm going from the butterfly to the caterpillar. No.
Quite the opposite, my dear.
Yeah, I
Quite
got the wrong direction.
Very nice. All right, so moving on to our next statement, which is my thoughts are the basis of my beliefs, words, and actions, and I will shift them. My thoughts are the basis of my beliefs, words, and actions, and I will shift them. So as I said before, BARDS started with a thought, started with an idea, and that has been a shift for me to then develop my beliefs, my words, and my actions about my life and about who I'm becoming and the gift that I have to give to the world. But it all starts with a thought.
Right.
And so as you are going through your process, if you believe that your thoughts are truly that powerful, they will impact your beliefs, your words, and your actions.
I know early in my life, I had picked my career, by the 5th grade. And so I guided my life all about my career. That's all it was about. And now I'm focused on me and not the career.
Yeah.
I am somewhat agreeing and somewhat disagreeing. And the reason is that I do not want to have to take responsibility for this. It's kind of big. And I don't like that. Sometimes it's hard when we're human, so we make mistakes. And boy, my words are coming out in ways I haven't been happy with lately, but it's that excitement and, just where I am with this whole new, and I finally am feeling like empowered. And so I have opinions, and sometimes they just come out and not in, the thoughtful way. It's like they just sneak out. So the fact that, wow, yeah, and that we are, that we are responsible because we are shifting them. So we do have some power to change that behavior.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Anyone else want to share? Okay. So with that, and you really hit the nail on the head with that one, is it's about responsibility. And being intentional means taking responsibility. And when we live a life of default, we don't have to take responsibility for our thoughts, our words, our actions, and our beliefs, because we allow others to determine those for us.
Right.
And so when we allow someone else to determine our course of action, and for you, it was career is so important that we define ourselves by our career or by our relationships or by the world standard of what we are supposed to be and how success looks on the surface of what the world says success looks like. And so if we default to that, then when something fails or something doesn't work out the way we want it to, we don't have to take personal responsibility. We can say, oh, that was because of the economy. Oh, that was because I chose the wrong career. Oh, that was because I picked the wrong person to have a relationship with. And you get to put the blame on everything else rather than take responsibility for yourself. And that was one of my biggest lessons in my transformation to become Badass Cat and where I am today, is taking responsibility for my life, my choices, my path to where I got now, part in that relationship not working out. I take responsibility for choosing this career path, and it really wasn't what I wanted, but I chose it anyway. Then I have to take responsibility to say, I will either make the best of it and embrace it or change it.
It goes back to what you were saying about taking responsibility, and it's scary
Right.
to take responsibility because now you've got it in your hands and everything falls on your shoulders. But you know what? You can't make change without doing it.
Right.
And change for the better, what's in the best interest of you or your family or whatever the situation may be.
Right.
But really, if you do put your own best interest first, then you are taking care of every other person in your life better than you are if you're not.
Just like they say on the airplane, if we lose oxygen, put your mask on first before you worry about your child, because you could pass out and then the child still doesn't have a mask on.
Right.
So you have to put yours on first.
That's right.
And it's the same with this.
It is exactly the same.
Okay.
With this. And the other piece of this is that as we take responsibility, it actually gives you more freedom than giving up control to someone else or something else. So in taking responsibility,
It gives you more
it
freedom.
actually empowers you to have freedom in a way that you've never experienced before. And that can feel very scary because you haven't felt that level of expansion and just release that, oh my God, I have to be or do or have something for someone else.
So really the freedom is where the fear comes from. The fear comes from the fact that you will be free.
You will be free.
And that's the scary part. It's not about the person. It's not about the situation. It's not about what you have. It's not even about how you go about it. I mean, it is, but it's all about fear of the freedom. Okay, that makes sense.
Because when you've lived a life of default, you have lived life under control of society, other people, your family. And there is, again, as we talked about in the beginning, there's a comfort level that we've come to accept in this life that we've created. And we have given up our freedom to conform to that process.
It's like you have to have permission to do something.
Exactly. And if you don't fit the box, then you're considered a failure, or you're considered wrong or bad or whatever it is, different. And then there creates that sense of guilt and shame and inadequacy, which we then internalize, and we shift that back out, and we get angry at the outside. We get angry at the relationship. We get angry at the job. We get angry and we want to blame that it's their fault for my bad feelings. But when we actually take full responsibility for our thoughts, our feelings, our words, and our actions, the freedom that we experience is beyond anything that I can describe. And that is truly the biggest gift you can give yourself.
You have to break that chain and get out of there.
Yeah.
You said words, actions, and what else?
Your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions.
Okay.
There's going to be a quiz later, right?
No, but there's a
Always a quiz for you.
there's a reason they're in order.
Yes.
And that's why I'm asking for the list. There's a reason.
Yeah,
Because
there is a reason.
the thoughts lead to your feelings, that
Feelings.
lead to your word. Yeah.
Yeah, that lead to your actions.
Yeah. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I asked.
Yeah.
I
All
get
right.
that.
So we're ready for the next statement. I am ready to make intentional decisions about my life. I am ready to make intentional decisions about my life. And again, there is no right or wrong. It's just where you are.
Well, that's going to make the quiz more difficult. If there's no right or wrong.
I'm in the middle because I already am in some ways, but not. And I mean, I'm on my way because I do make intentional decisions about parts of my life, but not about my whole life yet.
Right.
I started full intentional decisions 2 years ago, and I'm still working on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, this is a journey and a process. And it's very poignant that we can't just, again, shift to make intentional decisions about every aspect of our life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we start with one.
Mm-hmm.
We start with one aspect, and it could be anything from, something really big to something really small. It could be, you know what, I've got too much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to start paring down, and I need to start going through the things that I have and really making a decision. Is this something that I need? Is it something that I want? Does it add value to my life?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not one of those three things, then it can go.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to go through that process of being intentional about the things that you have in your life. It could be about relationships you have. Is this relationship really serving me? Are there things that I can do to improve this relationship? How can I behave or speak or feel differently in this relationship that would improve it?
Mm-hmm.
How can I communicate differently with my partner or partners?
As you evaluate yourself like that, you're slowing that train down.
Exactly. The more questions you ask yourself, instead of just going through the default,
Mm-hmm.
you are slowing that train down, and you're giving yourself the opportunity to really think.
Mm-hmm.
And it does. It starts with thoughts. And that is very intentional that it's thoughts, feelings, words, and actions.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we start to slow that train down and we start to evaluate and ask those questions of ourselves, that gives us permission to really seek the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the freedom that we talked about. And that's that connecting with your authentic self, the universe, and your energetic self in the process, because she will guide you. She will absolutely guide you. We've all had that experience where you've had that little prompting in your head that, go here, do this. Oh, this thought popped into my head and I want to share it. I know I've met with each of you individually, and as we have our conversations, the things that I share, the stories that I share, it's not that I've pre-planned it or I think about it, but those thoughts are coming to me because it is exactly what needs to be said in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the universe. I trust the universe to bring me the thoughts that I need to share in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I trust the universe to help guide me when I'm going somewhere. Sometimes you get that prompting, oh, turn here. Oh, I want to turn at the next street. You don't know why. Sometimes you just get this little oh, I want to go here. And so many times we ignore those little promptings, those little voices, those intuitions, that gut feeling. And we've been taught to suppress those in order to conform.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's starting to listen to that. And I still go through that so many times. I will have thoughts, and my first initial reaction is to suppress it, is to second guess myself. Oh, should I really do that? And then I have to stop and say, no. Don't second guess it. Just do it. Just do it. Just say it. Just whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I work continuously on listening to my authentic self, and it still is a journey for me. And so,
Well, you have to pay attention to that voice. If you're not
yeah,
paying attention, you hardly notice it.
exactly. And so many times we've been taught to drown it out
Mhm.
and to completely ignore it. So, any other thoughts on where you are and when you're ready?
Mhm.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question. The next statement says, I understand the relationship with myself is the most important relationship I have. I understand the relationship with myself is the most important relationship I have.
I fully agree with that. And I mean, no matter where you go or what you do, you're always there with yourself, no matter who else is around you. And so if you don't build, I know so many people that hate their job or hate their spouse or whatever, and they just are afraid to take control and change it. And so you have to look at yourself and say, hey, I need to be happy. And if I can't be happy like this, I have to find something else.
Yeah.
And so many people are afraid to do. I go visit an elderly lady all the time. She's like 90, will be 91 soon. And she told me that in her marriage, she had 3 kids and the kids all turned out well nice, and so she had these 3 little kids. And so she was gone for a few months, but then she had to go back because she just felt, even though she had a college degree, she felt like she could not take care of those kids by herself. And then the relationship with her husband got even worse. He got even worse because now he felt like he really owned her.
Right.
And she lived with that until he died of old age. And I just don't get that. I mean, it's like,
but that's that default of life that society says a successful relationship is where you have one man and one woman. And I know we've, expanded that a little bit, but really it's one man, one woman, you are together for life. And that is the definition of a successful marriage, regardless of being beaten and abused, regardless of whether there's love in that relationship or not, regardless of how that relationship manifests. Society looks on the outside. The only successful relationship is a marriage that lasts until somebody dies.
I think so many women think that they have to have a man to support themselves. And then they belong to this person, kind of, where really you want to have your own income and your own way of taking care of yourself, and you're never completely dependent. That way, no matter what happens, you still have control of your life.
Exactly.
It's interesting because I had that same feeling when I met my ex-husband. I had the career, my income was really great. I had 6 months to a year living expenses, saved. I was making enough money that I could do that. I wasn't doing it, but I was making enough money, and I felt like I was on top of the world. But I felt like I wanted to be a mom, and I felt like I really needed the husband to do that. And what I'm realizing is that it's like a generational part of healing, in the sense that we're always trying to heal what we were brought up with. So we invite those situations into our life without even meaning to, because it's not even conscious. And then there you are, and it's like, okay, there I am. I'm my dad again in this situation. And you just want to heal it so desperately, but when you're not conscious and aware of it, then it just takes over your whole life, and it consumes
if you can't figure out what it is.
Right. And so it's just this, like, you're just on autopilot light to keep repeating what you aren't willing to look at. And I've I've done a lot of therapy, got a master's degree in child and family development. Like I did everything I could on the outside to try to fix all this stuff. And what it took was a community. That's what it takes. I mean, like it takes a village for a reason, but that's what it's taking is this community where, and it doesn't even have to be women, but just a community where we're all in this together and let's figure this out. And it's okay. Wherever you come, wherever you're at, we're here.
That's right.
And that's really the key is that, we accept wherever you are, wherever you're at.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's what it's taking for me. And I could be ready, but I think I've been ready for a long time. I just haven't had this kind of community that's supportive and not judging.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's also sometimes we don't know what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're in a situation like that, I've been in a similar situation where I lived a life, and I think we've all been there, where we've lived a certain part of our life through that default mode of what we think we're supposed to do, what society says we're supposed to do, what your family says you're supposed to do, and you're trying to please everybody else, because if you don't please everybody else, then that impacts your self-esteem, because you're always looking outside yourself for that approval, rather than accepting that you are whole and complete the way you are.
And society even says, if you do that, if you take care of yourself too much, you're selfish.
Yes, yeah, and it's not true. That is
such
correct.
A good point.
Is that self-care, truly loving yourself in a way that is healthy, is looked upon very negatively.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and that should be our most important thing. And
absolutely, like you said, we are the only person that we are with, literally from the moment you're born to the moment you transition. You are the only person you are with 24/7. Every single day of your life.
Right.
Your parents aren't there for your whole life. Your partners aren't there for your whole life. Your children aren't there for your whole life. You are with you every moment of every day. And if you don't love yourself, if you aren't in tune with yourself, if you don't have a relationship with yourself, then how do you function?
How do you love someone else if you can't love yourself?
Absolutely.
But it's so hard to take it. It's so easy for me because I'm always in my head, but to get it into my heart, and I'm an emotional person. Like that's how my actions are all emotional,
right?
My words, but I can get it in my head, but sometimes it's like, how do you get it from here to here?
Honestly,
it's a long road.
It's time. And it's that consistent day to day. We talked about meditation. We talked about that the way that we tune in to who we are, and we're slowing that train down.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes our trains are going 1,000 miles an hour, and we've got it. And it takes time to really slow down those things, to shift those beliefs. And yes, it starts up here in your thoughts, and then it shifts to your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there where when I started my non-monogamous pathway, I got it all intellectually, but I was still very steeped in those monogamous ideas of jealousy, of how a relationship is supposed to work, what it's supposed to look like, how you utilize words like boyfriend and girlfriend and partner. Those all had connotations that were steeped in monogamy.
Preconceived.
And they were all preconceived ideas, but I'm trying to now fit that into this new non-monogamous concept. And what I really had to understand was I had to let go of all of that and really look at relationships from a different perspective. And it's in finding that different perspective that it shifted from being in my head of understanding how to have multiple relationships, how to engage with people at their own level, with how things work for me, and really internalizing that with my feelings and in my heart, that I could have these kinds of relationships and it truly was okay. And I didn't have to go to the default of monogamy to define how I was having this relationship. It truly was a completely different way of looking at the world and looking at my connections. And so it's when we let go of that default, when we let go of those preconceived ideas and we open ourselves to that new uncharted waters that we truly expand and we truly grow. And it's making that intentional choice to take responsibility for, as I'm entering this new world, I might make mistakes, or I might do something or say something that doesn't quite come out right. And that's okay.
Mhm.
And that's part of my learning and part of my journey. You know, we have two people here that are early childhood people. And so we always kind of revert back to when a child is learning how to walk. You know, a child is, they're standing up and they fall, and they stand up and they fall, and they take a step and they fall, and they take a step and they fall, and they take a step and a step.
And then they
fall.
crawl again.
And
They
then
get
crawl again
tired.
for a while.
Yeah.
And it's not that, you know, within a day or two they're up and walking. It's a process. And they don't ever feel bad about themselves because they fell down. They don't ever feel inadequate because they didn't stand up and walk the first time. And as adults, we don't get upset with them when they haven't started, you know, they take 2 steps. We're excited. We're excited and we're encouraging and we're supporting. But we don't do that as adults.
No.
We expect perfection right out of the gate. And we're not. We're not perfect.
Those
We'll
little
never
children
be
haven't been
perfect.
taught to think that it's not okay.
Right, because they haven't
haven't learned it yet. It's all learned.
Mhm.
Just
Exactly.
So
These are
we
all
have to
learned
unlearn
behaviors.
that.
And
We
they have,
now have to unlearn that. That is
and they
exactly
haven't learned to be afraid yet,
right.
because fear is learned too.
Mhm.
It is
And
absolutely.
it doesn't help anything.
No, it really is hindering.
Nice. All right. Do we want to move on to the next?
Mhm.
All right, we're getting close. So the next one is, I will seek opportunity for growth regardless of the situation or outcome.
Wow.
So you can kind of see there is a progression of these questions. It kind of starts very general
Tell me about it.
and it's getting more and more specific
Mhm.
about where you are in your process.
Right. I fully agree with that, because even if you set a goal, you can't always be sure of what you're going to get.
Mhm.
You think this is what I'm going to get if I do this. And so you try things or a few things and see if that gets you there, but it might get you something else. And then you have to try something different
Mhm.
to get yourself to that goal. Or maybe that was a bad goal, but you have to figure this out by trying things.
Right.
If Thomas Edison had not gone a second or third or 1,000 times, we wouldn't have light today. You
This is
see?
true.
But he just said, no, that didn't work. I'll try this. This,
Mhm.
okay, that one didn't work. I'll try this. And so we have to do that too, because we have a goal, or we should have a goal on where we're trying to get to. But you don't know what the result's going to be till you get there.
Mhm.
And so you have to be willing to continue trying
Mhm. Mhm.
until you get what you want.
Or, like you said, sometimes that intended outcome doesn't end up being what you achieved because along the way you found a different path
Mhm.
and you found a different outcome that actually is better.
Right.
And so it's being open to the fact that sometimes we have a preconceived idea of what we want, but something else comes along the way.
Mhm.
And are we willing to let go of that preconceived idea to actually receive what is coming to us?
Right.
And one of my favorite quotes that I post this a lot of different places, it's by Joseph Campbell. And it says, we must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us.
That's nice.
And what I took from that is that so many times we set these goals of career or relationship or outcomes, and we keep going down this path to achieve these things that we've set forth when they really are not what's best for us or what's serving us or what feels good.
Mhm.
But because we've set this goal, and this I have to say is exactly how I ended up in my marriage, was I didn't want to feel like I was a failure at relationships.
Mhm.
And so even though I knew going into this relationship that it was not healthy. I didn't feel good about it. I wasn't going to be a quitter.
Mhm.
And I wasn't going to give up because it was hard and because it was bad. Just because of that, I was so afraid of failure that I allowed myself to be in a relationship for 25 years
Mhm.
that hurt.
Yeah.
And it hurt deeply and continued year after year after year, hurting more and more. And I sunk deeper and deeper because I was afraid to be perceived as a failure on the outside.
Right. Sometimes, though, it's okay to work hard for something and it be difficult
Yeah.
if you're getting what you want from it.
Yes,
And-
if it feels good.
and I've had that happen.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was a great reward at the end, even though it was
Absolutely.
hard to get there.
yeah,
It was painful, but it was a great reward in the end. And,
absolutely.
but you have to evaluate it. Am I quitting because it's hard, or am I quitting because this is really not where I need to go?
Right, right. And that's where I didn't have that discernment.
Right. It's hard to see it. You have to
It
really
is.
think about it
Absolutely.
and constantly consider that.
Right. But that's also that part of being able to go inward and love yourself.
Hmm.
And I didn't have that at that time.
Right.
I was
You've grown into that.
I've grown into that through this process where I got to a point where it was so painful and so hurtful that the only thing I could do was to literally break it
Hmm.
and to walk away from it
Right.
and end this relationship in a way that really impacted my life in a way that I could never have imagined.
Hmm.
But yet, through all of that, I have become me.
Hmm.
And I have embraced me, and I am creating the me that I believe that I am, that I desire to be. And yes, I may have become that type of person, but I wouldn't be who I am today.
Well, I didn't know you before, but you're certainly the butterfly today.
Oh, thank you. Beautiful. Anyone else want to share at this point?
I'm kind of like in a somewhat agree, somewhat disagree, just because like breaking out of that mold, out of that, I'm still in the somewhat cocoon stage. I'm
Mhm.
beginning to emerge, but I'm not quite there yet. And I'm testing the weather and seeing if it's the right time to come out, if it's windy or not, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And but I'm learning that no matter what the situation is, or no matter what the possibility may be, I have to learn that I can break out of what people define for me and be who I want to be and do what I want to do, not what other people want me to do or not to do or whatnot. To
Mhm.
just be authentically myself and true to myself as I am, And if that means I want to get a tattoo, hell, I'll get a tattoo,
Mhm.
I'm tired of worrying about what other people will think of me and perceive me as a certain way or to be a certain model of what they deem as appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be what I am. For me, in order to grow, I got to be true to myself.
It's kind of scary to take those steps, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but it's worth it. It reminds me of that quote that William Shakespeare said, above all else, to thine own self be true."
Mhm.
That's very true.
So
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, I went to elementary school with Bill. Not really.
Your age. Oh my gosh.
All
Oh my
right.
gosh.
Any other
I'm pretty
thoughts
tired.
or ideas on that statement? All right, so we're down to the last question. The last statement. I am ready to make an investment in myself.
Oh, yeah, that's easy.
I am ready to make an investment in myself. So many times we make
Mhm.
investments in our relationships, in our careers, in our families, in everything that's outside of us. We spend money going to professional workshops. We take vacations with our family. We spend money on our partners. But when do we make investments for us?
Mhm.
And those investments come in the form of thought, time, money, learning, and creating.
Mhm.
So investment it's a process of truly embracing and focusing on yourself.
Mhm. I fully agree to that one too. And again, it always about career for me. So even after all my college, I still was taking seminars and all, but again, it was all career focused, but it was constantly learning new things and building myself. I mean, it all was good for me. Okay. And it helped my career tremendously. And I loved my career. So it was not a bad thing that I did that, but I wasn't focused on me. I was focused on the career.
Right.
And now I still have that career, but now I can focus on me.
Beautiful.
I'm realizing that if I don't make the investment in myself, it really is like life or death for me.
Mm-hmm. And we're doing that here. This is what we're doing.
This is
we're
investment right here, being here. It's your time.
It really
it's your
is. It really is like, if I don't do this, I will die. Like, it's come to that in my life enough. And even recently, you know, where I just don't put taking care of my physical self above what other people's opinion of what I need to do. And I let that get in the way of doing things that aren't in my own best interest when I really need to just trust myself.
Yeah.
Like when I needed to not be working and then had the doctor confirm everything that was really wrong physically, when everybody in my life was thinking, you're just a mess, you know, emotionally. And so you've kind of been a mess. And so that's why you're sick. But I was really sick.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm getting ready for surgery number 2. So it's like, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
And that this can really change your life and it can affect you in so many ways. And even just trauma in general can have all these physical effects on your body that are life threatening.
Our thoughts and our words are super powerful.
Yeah.
Very much so.
I think like with the words and the thoughts and the investment in ourselves, it's important to realize that whether it's for the positive or the negative, like you said, it's so powerful because I see it through like a loved one of mine and they tend to put themselves down at times, you know, and I realize they're not even consciously aware of doing it. And so I say, hey, be nice to her. I love her, you know. And I need to be that example to my loved one to tell them, you know, it's okay to love yourself. It's not selfish. And to take time into loving yourself and taking care of yourself. That's investing time for me because it's about me for me. And it's essential that I do that and I focus on what I need to do. And I need to be there for that person so I can be there for myself.
Absolutely. You know, and that's one of the pieces around making investments. It's how are you taking care of yourself? You know, whether it's your health, whether it's your sex life, whether it's your financial life, how are you taking care of you first? Because we talked about that. You know, we need to take care of ourselves first so that we can take care of other people. And when we stop taking care of ourselves, or we by default gives more than what we have to offer, which is what a lot of women tend to do. We are the givers of the world. We are the ones that are expected to give and give and give and give and give. But when do we have time and energy and resources to fill the well? And we keep trying to pull water out of a dry well, and yet those things and people and aspects outside of us keep expecting us to continue to give when we need to stop and say, no, this has to come first.
For thousands of years, our society has said, okay, the woman is responsible for the kids, responsible for taking care of the husband, cooking, all this other stuff, but never responsible for taking care of herself.
Exactly.
Nobody gets to do that.
Right, exactly. And that was exactly my situation when I ended up moving to Washington with my husband at the time. And his career was taking off and he was doing things and his money went up. I ended up taking a $20,000 pay cut to move from California to Washington, taking a lower position in order for him to increase his career. So then at that point, we're both working. I'm still now working full time and taking care of a home and our daughter and and commuting and the cooking and the cleaning. And then we bought this huge house and had to take care of a 3,500 square foot house and all of that. And yet I couldn't go to the mall and go shopping without bringing him back a gift. And he would get mad if I wouldn't bring him something because I wasn't thinking about him.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, wait a minute, this is my time. Even if I'm with my daughter, it's like, okay, this is my time with my daughter and it's our girl time. And yet it was constant that I couldn't think about myself. I couldn't take care of myself because I was supposed to take care of him. And I was supposed to take care of her and take care of the house and take care of all these things. But I couldn't take care of him. And truly, that's where it came down to. I had a stroke at 41 because my health, everything came crashing down, and my body couldn't deal with the stress anymore.
And that's what American society is like for all women, or most women.
For most women, it really is. For many, many women,
and they see no way out
as well.
I can see
and especially around the world, we have women that don't have the right we as women have in America.
Right.
And so there's another added layer around the world of women that are oppressed and suppressed, where they just don't even have the opportunities that we have here.
They have no rights.
They have no rights. They have no opportunity. They're not allowed to work. They're not allowed to vote. They're not allowed to educate themselves.
Right.
Even drive it.
Right. Sometimes they can't drive. Sometimes, there's all kinds of limitations around the world that women have been oppressed for thousands of years. And so part of this work that we're doing with BARDS is truly to change that across this world, that we embrace who we are. We are authentic beings, regardless of what goes on around you. And so that's really the piece of this work, is that it starts here. And regardless of what situation we're in, we get to control our thoughts, our feelings, our words, and our actions. And when we control those, when we're responsible for those, then we have the opportunity to change what's outside of us. But until we take that responsibility and we take back our control and empower ourselves, we don't have influence. And that's truly the biggest piece about transforming. That's what this is our turning point. We're at 6 months now. So we've gone through this whole process of figuring out, setting our foundation. What do we need to know and understand? Who are we? And now we're ready to make that turning point, to really dig in and take what we have created in here, and we're going to start moving that forward outside of ourselves and creating that influence into what I want here and how do I manifest it out here. And that's what today has been all about. Any final thoughts or ideas or comments?
No, this is really nice,
It
focused
was really good
discussion.
I think the way you summed it up was beautiful. I think of that Lisa Rankin from her book, that quote about, or the story about the Italian immigrants and how when they came over from Italy and were working in the steel mill and smoking and eating pasta and drinking wine, and they all lived longer. They had a longer life than anyone in that area, even those that weren't working in the steel mills. And it was all because they had that community. So I think for me, this is the community in a sense that, there's a lot of communities you can get involved in, but we all need a community. And that is really all we need to really get to what you were saying about that self.
Well, to know you're not alone. While we are doing our internal work, that is our private process. But to do that in a community with support, knowing other people are going through the same thing, whether it's, it's not exactly the same, but it's a similar process, knowing we are all in this together, having that support, having that shoulder we can cry on when we need to, having that person bring you that upliftment and that support that you need in the moment, being able to share that for someone else, because that's that process of connecting, creating, and thriving. And that's what we talk about in BARDS, is that we are here to connect, create, and thrive.
And the nice thing about it is that we can rely on each other, but yet we're not trying to control each other and push each other in different directions. We're trying to let each of us get our own journey.
Exactly. You know, I'm not here to tell you what your journey is.
Right.
My goal and my role in this is to offer processes and support so that you can take the journey for you.
Right.
You know, my journey is my journey, and I can share my stories, and my stories may relate to you or they may not. But the journey that I've gone through, you're going through the same journey in your own way.
Right.
And that's what binds us together, is that we are all women and we're all on this journey of really understanding and embracing our authentic self.
And even if we're not going in the same direction, there's so many similarities in getting there.
Exactly.
That we can support each other.
Absolutely. And that's
because the process is the same for each of us, even if it's not the same direction.
That's right. That's right. Or the same outcome. And so that truly is the piece of all of this, is that I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to share how I've done it and offer things that may help you.
I'll be glad to tell anybody what to do if you want to know.
No, we know you're good at that. Beautiful. All right. Any final words? Excellent. So thank you so much for joining us here at Badass Red Dress Society. This is our 12-month guided discussion group. Today we talked about transforming your life. So I want to offer a thank you to my lovely ladies who showed up all in red today as well. Thank you so much for that. That was really exciting. I also want to thank my husband and partner, Mark Clayton, for his contribution and support in all the work that I do. And I thank the universe for being a part of my experience. And I have many resources that I can thank, from Abraham Hicks to Jensen Chera, a lot of authors that I've read, making that investment in myself. One of the things I've learned is that I've probably spent well over $1,000 and thousands of hours in my own personal journey and investment over the last 6 years. And it's that process.
Are we offline?
We are.